We're at the end of what's been a really revealing day in the sentencing hearing for Austin Thompson. We learned more about his mindset that day, the route he took on his shooting rampage through the Hedingham neighborhood and onto the Greenway, his internet search history, and what his father feels about the killings. We also saw the full two-page note investigators found left behind by Thompson after he killed his brother James. The reason I did this is because I hate humans. They are destroying the planet/Earth. It goes on to say, I don't have a goal. I'm not suicidal. Death is like sleep. That's why I don't care if I die. Let's bring in WRAL's Megan Cloherty. She's been following this for us today, and that letter is really giving us our first sense of any kind of motive here.
That's exactly right. It's the first time we've heard in the killer's words why he may have taken these actions. Investigators say that Thompson wrote the two-page note just after he killed his brother and before then heading out to take other people's lives. The day started with an emotionally powerful delivery by Gabriel Torres's widow about the impact that the crime had on her life. And there was this moment where, she was talking about how, my daughter is also a victim. She has a voice, and she wanted to come today to talk to who she calls the bad man who hurt your daddy. And she said, well, I can't let you in that room with him.
Right.
But do you want to pass on a message? And the little 5-year-old said, yes, can you record me? So she plays this video of her 5-year-old addressing her father's killer.
If you could talk to the person who killed your dad, what would you say to that person?
Say sorry to my dada. I miss him so much.
Yeah?
Uh-huh.
Does it hurt you that Dada's not here?
Yes.
It's just really powerful. I've never seen something like that done in court. And in that video you saw, we panned the camera over so you could see Austin Thompson's reaction, stone-faced, as that was being read.
I have a question, and I think it's going to be asked after all of this concludes, is the injury that the self-inflicted injury.
Right.
Shooting himself in the head, does that take away his ability to emote? We don't know the answer to that question, but throughout this entire hearing, no matter who's been up there, he's pretty stoic, sometimes kind of moving in his seat, maybe turning like a little flushed, but we haven't really seen any emotion, and there wasn't a dry eye in the gallery after that. In fact, Thompson's own father was wiping away tears. This is right before he took the stand, and he described his loss, he says, in losing 2 sons on the same day, the childhood that he thought he had built for his boys, fishing and spending time with family during the holidays, participating in the church basketball league, frequent visits to get ice cream. I mean, he sort of painted this idyllic childhood, and one of the things he hit was that he had instilled in them respect for firearms, which is a very interesting point in all of this. Alan Thompson said that he didn't see any signs and that he wouldn't have been able to live with the guilt if he had.
I just don't understand why. I can't, the problem I have, I can't put 2 and 2 together. The person I raised and the person who did these things, I can't put them together.
Right, and as you hear that, as you said, he was emotional when he took the stand. That actually came a few minutes later, and he got emotional again talking about it. So he was emotional really throughout his testimony there, Alan Thompson, as he really seemed to be wrestling with what all of this has meant for his relationship with his remaining son.
Right, and he also mentioned that he visits him as often as he can. And, listening to all of this as a parent, it's very heavy because you're sort of like trying to put yourself in his position, God forbid, and then trying to understand how you wrestle with a child who took your other child's life. Yeah. He's trying to be there for him, but clearly there's conflict there, and he's not the kid that he thought he raised. The next person we heard from was an investigator who testified about that note that we mentioned that they found in the Thompson home. It was handwritten, it was front and back. Part of it was ripped off to leave a note about James, but investigators detailed what that said. And beyond what we had told you, Sergeant William Tripp was his name. He testified in that note, Austin gives a reason why he took his brother James's life. And he says in it, quote, I killed James because he would get in my way.
I have never been bullied or anything by Dad. I don't like you, Mom. Every other member Every other family member is good. Thanks, Juan and D'Angelo, for taking me hunting. I don't want to die, but it is going to happen anyway.
and then onto the back of that note.
You were the best, Dad. I was never bullied in school either. Parentheses, cops, in parentheses. I killed James because he would get in my way.
And at the end of that letter, you kind of hear in context that phrase that you set it up with, that he killed his brother because he would get in his way, according to Austin Thompson at the time that he wrote it. It's just interesting to me the way that it's written, very matter of fact. This was the time. I was sane when I did this. It's all very clear.
From an evidentiary standpoint, this was before he had the traumatic brain injury. So him writing that, I am sane, I think he said, I'm not mental. That's important. It also shows the premeditation in all of this, and that he was really had packed the bag, wrote the letter, and then we learned days after the shooting that investigators said Austin Thompson's father found a hollowed out chapstick tube that apparently had something rolled up inside of it, and it was a handwritten note inside of it. And they found that it was a list of like bomb making materials and how to make bombs, which they didn't find any of that. But it also points to, his mindset, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And then lines up with some of the internet search history that we later heard about. And that was sort of the last bit of this testimony. But a final line about his mental state just before heading out on this rampage where he would kill 4 people and seriously injure 2 others. He wrote, I have no regrets. Like you said, I'm not mental either. And I was saying when I did this. So that's really the state of mind that he seemed very clearly wanting people to know. As I said, the day ended with that peek into Thompson's technology, including that search history, which did include some references to bomb-making type stuff and other things as well. And also that internet and computer records that they were able to find also showed where his phone was pinging during the shootings.
Yes, we learned that he took his phone with him, which is a big detail, because that puts a lot together from an evidence perspective, having those GPS locations to kind of ping where he was. And you can see his route, and they kind of put this whole route up on the big screen, and they made a video of it. And the sergeant who was tasked with compiling all of this GPS data plotted it out, created this route that was kind of almost interactive. And it's, we're talking about a murder.
Yeah.
We're talking about something really heavy, so it's not like it's cool. I'm not trying to say that.
Right.
But it connected the dots of all of these events that we know happened. It showed you what order things happened in, the distance between the victims. It said he traveled 2.4 miles through all of this, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., which is when he was eventually taken into custody at that shed near the Greenway. So we have all of that. We have that video, and it's rather long, but if you're interested in how all of these pieces fit together, you can find that on WRAL.com. As you mentioned, just a disturbing portion of the day was that search history.
Right, yeah, it really just shows you how much planning may have gone into all of this.
Well, and it kind of also upends the idea that he snapped, that this was out of nowhere. They went back, to be fair, they went back a number of years. So I don't think that's fair to say, in my opinion, that speaks to your mindset if something was 2 years ago.
Sure.
But in the recent search history, his parents testified earlier that, he was a normal kid. There was no behavioral change. He was still going to school. But this detective testified to what he found in the search history.
In general, there were lots of searches on violent incidents, violent people, mass shootings, school shootings, serial killers. There were searches on law, on murder, law as it relates to juveniles, consequences, bank robberies, rape. There was a significant search history on violent acts and violent events that have happened in the history.
And another investigator went through more detailed all of those different records and gave more of a sense of, like you said, the timeline. Some of this stuff was a year prior. Some of it was within a month. So it was definitely a very detailed number. I think that same investigator said something like it would have taken him a cart to be able to bring in all the search records that they were able to get off of that phone.
I think he said something like 200,000 searches or something. And if you think about all the searches you do, I don't know, over 4 or 5 years, maybe
Right.
it would amount to that. But a lot of these searches were pretty damning in what he was searching for and the specific phrases he was searching for. So it was just a day that we just kept kind of taking a deep breath. And we had the emotional testimony from Ms. Torres, then we had his father on the stand, then we learned more about his mental state with the note. Then we learned, the data, kind of piecing together this crime scene that we, just putting it together in a way that maybe we had thought, but we didn't want to assume, laying out those details. And then with the search history, it's a really big day
Yes.
at the hearing.
Yes, just so much information that has come out today. And then tomorrow on Friday, we expect that to be at least starting to wrap up for the prosecution side, right?
Right, yeah, they said they were going to take this week. We know that the last witness on the stand this evening was that sergeant who was tasked with going through all of that technological data. So the defense has a lot of questions for him, and that's how we'll start Friday morning, and who knows where it'll go from there. It could be another day like this one.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Megan.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching, and we'll continue to keep giving you these updates right here on YouTube.